Good afternoon. It is Monday morning. We're doing the stats. Oh, Monday afternoon. God, it's been that kind of week.
Oh
I'm telling you, if you know what my kind of weekend's been, we're kind of suffering today, right? The whole office is suffering.
Yeah.
It's the end of the summer season blues, and the last minute extracurricular activity that comes with going out on the weekends. Anyway, we're here today to talk about
the stats for Monmouth County
and Ocean County. Your favorite place,
Yes.
Ocean County. It's the beach towns. Oh, also Monmouth County too. And we did some. We did a lot of business this year in Ocean and Monmouth counties. So it's quite the interesting real estate market. We're going to get into that in a second because there is a couple of things to touch on. One is the 10-year treasury has hit a high since 2000. So you have to go pretty far back in, well, now it's what, 23 years. 23 years ago, the interest rate, well, the 10-year treasury is at its current rate, which has affected mortgage rates, which are at the highest since 2000. And the interesting thing about this latest round of rate hikes is it or isn't it going to act accordingly with market conditions like it did last November? October, November, December was pretty rough. But for some reason, it still seems like the market has its blips, even with all these high mortgage rates. It's something we'll get into in a second. So anyway, we have to run through these numbers. And July was definitely an interesting set of data and a couple of things that we have to report on because we're seeing a little bit of softness, but to what degree, that's what we're going to get into. So, Keri, what's the latest for today? What do we got for me? What's the good word?
Okay, so we're gonna start with days on market.
Mm-hmm.
So month over month, it's down 6.9%.
Right.
Year over year, it's up 22.73%.
Okay.
Why did properties take longer to sell this year rather than last year?
Well, I mean, the clear evidence is that the difference between the market is obviously interest rates. But to be honest with you, that's a little bit better than Staten Island. So if you're in the Monmouth Ocean area, it's definitely taking a little bit longer here. We're talking about a 22% difference over a year ago in time. So is it significant? I believe it's in Staten Island was 44.
Yeah.
It was double that.
Yeah.
So it's taken longer, even in Staten Island, twice the amount of extra time to sell a house. So it's obviously interest rate driven. The good news is that, we're going to get into this in a second, is that the inventory is down a bit, continues to drop. So yes, it's up and it's purely it's called a low volume, low inventory market, meaning that there is not a bunch of sellers based on this data that are coming out to look, but some of the other data says that we're still kind of hot. We're still kind of hot, but let's be cautious. We got to start being cautious because this data is a little bit. The data reports like a month or two after, like a house goes into contract. So we're really watching some of the pending stuff. So we'll get into that in a second.
Would you say there's any specific areas that are experiencing longer or shorter days on the market?
Yes. So the typical, the circle around New York City in general tends to be the most robust. And typically places, as you go further into Ocean County, prices and time on the market extends a little bit further than if you're in places like Middletown, if you're in places like Manalapan, you're seeing that they're fairly close enough to what we call the offshoot market of Staten Island, meaning people will kind of move in. They don't want to move too far away from Staten Island, or they want too far out of New York City. They want to be close enough to kind of get to. So people are quicker to move into locations that are closer, obviously, to the metro New York area. And then, like everything else, it tails off as you start going south to maybe Freehold. You're starting to see like these in the market pick up a little bit. So as you move away from the epicenter, which is New York City, in terms of value propositions, you're really looking at days in the market with a bit of an uptick. Which is 22%, but it's better than Staten Island is doing right now. So that's important to note. It is definitely like something that's a little bit different from Staten Island in a few respects. I mean, in general, most of the numbers look healthier than they actually do here. So we went over this a few times in the past. If you watch our our live data from last month or last week.
Yeah.
Right, we did it last week for Staten Island?
Yeah, last week.
It was last week. Okay. Just to make sure.
Or maybe 2 weeks?
No, it was last week.
Yeah, it was.
We have a hard time remembering. We got to get through this weekend still.
Yeah.
We're not too sure what week we're in right now. We know it's coming close to the end of summer. Oh, goodness. No more DJs.
No.
For either of us. Anyway.
So the month's inventory is up month over month.
Yes.
25.90%. It was last month at 1.66. Now it's at 2.09.
Okay. This is indicate. This is a little softness here. All right. For the year-over-year difference, it's still down. Month's inventory is down 5.86, about 6%. But it is up month over month. So what it means is that a few more houses came on the market, and due to the low inventory situation that we're currently experiencing, they definitely this isn't a leading indicator, and as a leading indicator, month's inventory up. This is historically low, though. I want to make this clear. We're talking about months inventory numbers sitting at 2 months, which is profoundly seller's market in general. Now, seller's markets need to understand that doesn't mean that the seller can put their house up for anything and it's going to sell. It is like within the ranges that are supposed to sell in. So if things are there are a lot more fundamentals at play now than there were maybe 6 months ago, because of the fact that there's it's a slower market, not necessarily a bad market for sellers, but it's a slow market. This is indicating that maybe we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown. I like to see a trend develop before, so you want to see like a quarter of a trend develop and see if that trend develops over that quarter, and we could basically see where these numbers are going. But it was in June at under 2 months, and has creeped back up to just a bit over in July to like 2 months. A little bit more than that, 2 1/10 of a month. So there you go. So it has ticked up a little bit, but it's still below July. June, but it's still below July. It's still above June month's inventory, and year over year. Year over year, it's actually down. So it is down 5% from year over year. So month's inventory continues to show that there's not much in the way of activity happening there. So we'll get to the next one. What do you have for me, Keri?
This is on active listings. So it's down year over year, 26.27%.
That's what? Repeat that question. I'm sorry.
Why has there been a significant decrease in active listings?
Okay. So this is again goes along flies. The active listings continue to see, we're seeing declines because of the same reason. Most people, so there's the latest report out at where current mortgage holders hold their mortgages as far as interest rates. So most of the 60% of all mortgages that are currently outstanding have a 4% or less. So 4% of all mortgage holders, 60% of all mortgage holders are currently under 4%. That is not a push to move into a nearly 8% market if they're going to be moving. So that is by far the driving force. So the viability for moving from an economic standpoint is diminished just based on rates. So that's the number one reason for that particular number being as low as it's been. So new homes coming on the market still continues its decline, but it's still something to like. We're watching a couple of things, and I think the next is there a question on sales to list price ratios? I don't know if there is. So
yes,
there is. Okay, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Sales to list price ratio is another leading indicator, but you would continue on that sequence.
Yeah.
You keep going. We're going to get to that sales to list price ratio because there is something that I need to point out now. There is something very specific.
Yeah, we'll just go to that. So the sales to list price is up month over month, 0.39%.
Yep.
Down year over year,
Yes.
1.07%.
Okay.
What do you think about?
What do I think about it?
Yeah.
I think about it stinks for home buyers. No, I think it's just, this is a strange, like I said, very odd do you see a market that has, so the average list to sale price ratio in Monmouth and Ocean County exceeds the list price. So the houses that are closing slightly over 101.9% as of July. It is down month over month, however, 0.39, correct? And then it's down from last year.
It's down from last year, up from
month over month. Okay, so it's down 1%. So it was at 102.9 a year ago, and has seen a bit of a dip. That's really, it's not significant enough to. There's a little significance to show that this is part of the slowdown. So we're looking at this from is there a slowdown happening at this moment? What I'm going to tell people is that I think, to give you a precursor for what's going to happen now, I do think at the end of the day that due to higher interest rates, there's going to be some pain in the data moving forward. There's definitely a smaller buying pool based on today's rate. So I do see a dampening in some capacity for this to continue at this pace. So there'll be one interesting factor is how much inventory does come on the market if in fact that happens. So there are two things, well, I think we'll get into that. I think that's one of the questions you have there. It's what are the future, what would I see as the future in this possibility?
Yes.
So we'll get to the next thing now, but it's down. It is down 1% from. It's up month over month and down little over 1%. Still 101.9% of list price. So as people are still getting above list price. But I caution this, because this is Monmouth and Ocean Counties. It's a tale of two counties. So I don't think that the same thing is happening in Monmouth. Monmouth, you may have experienced a little bit more robust, list of X to sell price ratios. Where if you go to the southern, as you go further south, this doesn't exist quite as much. So I just want to quickly point that out.
Also, what do you think is driving the slight decrease in the median listing price from month over month? It's down for like 4%.
The average list, the new listing price coming on the market, right?
Yes, the sold median listings.
Oh, okay, so the sold median listing price is down, correct?
Yes.
So there you go. It's down year over year. So the prices have come down a little bit. So I guess right now, it's not a guess. There's a softness in the market is indicative that the average, median average has kind of moved down a bit. That's month over month, correct?
Yes, month over month is
It's
down.
up. It's up year over year, but it's month over month. It's declined, correct?
The sold median listings, no, it's down year over year also, 80.84%.
So that's negligible. So basically, it's the same.
Mm.
So I mean, not even a percentage point difference. Staten Island is 2% decline. Here it's basically at the same level. But I'm gonna again, one of the things with Monmouth and Ocean is like we haven't separated the two, and I definitely think that one factors over another. I think people could say Monmouth Ocean. It's a big geographic area, and I do think that at the end of the day, some of these list to sell price ratios can be a little deceiving. Median home sale prices. So there has been a decrease month over month, though. Correct?
Yes.
It's from 604 down to 584 as a median average. I mean, so it's definitely, is that correct?
The sold average listing?
Yes.
Yeah, it's down month over month.
Yeah.
3.25%.
Yeah, 3.25.
Mm-hmm.
So down 3.25%. So that's month over month. That is not indicative of a trend, but it's something worth monitoring. Let's call it for that. It is something worth monitoring because I do see that a median sale price dropped from. And here's what's happened. And I'm going to give you what really happened here, and this is why it's so important to pay attention to interest rates. At a lot of times, the houses closed back in June of this year. Mortgage interest rates did drop considerably toward as you went into March and April. So they were down maybe to, at one point, mortgage interest rates is 5.99. That's how significant the price, how significant the interest rate plays on price in this market. Mm. So that's why I'm so very cautious to say, where are we heading from here? When you look at these numbers and you say to yourself, okay, well, is there anything we can kind of see that kind of points out there maybe a little bit of a struggle with people necessarily purchasing a home? This is where the number kind of shows up. And then conversely, what will happen here is a lot of people will, if the interest rate comes down, the market is very volatile. So it's people who are really considering selling need to keep an eye on the fact that, let's just say you're in a 6-month contract, you have to really look at the fact that within that span that your house is on the market, things can change very rapidly from high interest rate to low interest rate, and then a lot of people tend to correspond their decision to move based on what the news of the day is, and they're not really prepared for that sale. Mm-hmm. And then consequently, it takes a little bit of time to get the house on the market, and very quickly, interest rates can pop up and change prices quickly. And I'm going to be honest with you, the people in New Jersey need to be a little bit more careful because I call it the end of the whip. The end of the whip. So I've talked about this before, which is, there is a big correlation between the New York market and the New Jersey market, and like a whip, at the beginning you just have to wait a little bit, so prices at where the center of gravity is, as you move away from it, that whip swings quite a bit.
Yeah.
So you could really lose value quickly, or you could gain it as quickly. So a lot of people try to time these things out, and it's not really the most positive way to go about selling in this it's not going to be net positive in every case that you do this correctly. So make sure, like, if you're doing this, it may take you a little bit longer to sell. It might be a little, but if those interest rates really pop down, and there will be a immense amount of buyers that will come into the market based on that. So that's really what I have to caution people for, because I do think at the end of the day, it's people will do things and it'll be a reactive type of response to interest rates, and usually they catch it too late. So it's a challenge to time these things out. I don't really see that done with a large degree of success, because the people who did have their house up in March and April of this year definitely saw a bump up in prices, no doubt about it. And it's showing that in the numbers. It's definitely showing in that median average sold price. So that's where we have it.
Do you think that given the competitive market, are there more buyers waiving contingencies to make their offers more appealing?
Okay. The answer is quite simply, it depends. There is fewer bids per house now than there were, say, 2 years ago. It's obvious. So this is where competitive pricing will make sense. It is important to have multiple bids than not have multiple bids, because it will allow some degree of negotiation on. What we're seeing now is a very strange market where a house comes on the market, there's a lot of interest, a lot of offers, and then a lot of remorse after the offer. So you're seeing this happen a little bit more frequently, where you see, okay, you get multiple offers, you get a whole bunch in, then all of a sudden you're getting calls to say, well, they decide they're not going to go this direction, they're not going to go this direction, and usually they try to outbid very quickly, so they come in, maybe 4% over list price, and then they realize, oh, maybe I just didn't do the right thing, maybe I should be a little more cautious. You're seeing more of that happen. So while there is some of this going on, it shows that there's a little bit of uneasiness in the market as far as buyers are concerned. So we'll leave that at that.
Yeah. And now, like, on the seller's side, are sellers holding off on listing their properties because they are expecting prices to rise?
They're foolish if they do.
Yeah.
I don't think, based upon what the inflation, the measures for inflation right now are going to be, the only thing that's going to be the difference in whether prices are going to appreciate or depreciate is going to be purely interest rate driven. The only mix in that is what the unemployment numbers look like in the next 6 months, which is something we're paying attention to. And that's something that's the fly in the ointment for all of this, where it can get a little bit of, it can be a little bit of a challenge if unemployment numbers do something. But I'm going to say that for last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you think sellers are responding to multiple offer situations?
Sellers are overconfident.
Overconfident?
They're overconfident. You're seeing this more and more. It's not a process everybody kind of goes through, like they buy other things. They may do this process once, twice, maybe 3 times at the height. So there's so many assumptions being made, especially in multiple offer situations, where it's like, oh, we got this price. Let's say a house is priced at $699 and they got a $730. They're like, wow, look at this offer. Well, that's the offer. Now the benchmark in their head is really set at this number now. It's like now the corresponding numbers. And typically with this low volume kind of environment, you're going to get a lot of those offers up front, and then you're not going to see them anymore. And then it's like, it will your capacity now is front loaded. So everything that's happening at the early stages is very indicative of like where likely you're going to go down from. Okay, not go up from in this environment. I think people have this, it's a rather, they see something happen quickly, they expect this to be a process, and they overestimate like what it is that they're going to get as part of like that final sale number. And I do think some people are missing. They're invested too much in the ideas of what things are, and then using. I mean, we've seen people throw caution to the wind here and make some pretty bad mistakes. But some people you can't talk out of that. So I do think that at the end of the day, it comes down to like, is the seller, if you're dealing with someone who understands what's happening here and understands like, you can get multiple offers, but it is a one-hit wonder in this market. So if you get that rather quickly, you're going to have to make a decision on those offers. And I would really be cautious about someone who really comes in way over where you expect. Because a lot of times it's like there is a considerable amount of buyer remorse out there. So a lot of times you get them and it seems like, oh, I can't believe it. Just to turn around and say, oh, the inspection, then they start coming with inspection stuff, and it could unravel from there. So not every offer is as good as the number at the top of the page. You have to look at every parameter, see if it's going to make sense with, if are they waiving appraisal, waiving appraisal, or a portion of appraisal? Are they waiving inspection? Like you say, dropping contingencies. I think less and less you're going to see that. I mean, especially in this market. I just think that's going to continue to be. It's one of the first signs of weakening, and you can see that part of the weakening. Now, that's not to say weakening of home prices. We're going to talk about from the point of, is there going to be turnover in the market? I don't see, unless that one thing that I'm going to talk about at the end of this is the issue.
So based on the current trends, what are the predictions for real estate market in the upcoming months?
Yeah. So what's going to happen in the next coming months?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably a lot easier than to predict than some people's social life. but if we all had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
But the big thing is okay. There's a few numbers looking forward that I want people to pay attention to. One of them is obviously FOMC meeting, federal interest rate. The Fed is not the federal. The Fed interest rate. The Fed's private. Is going to be meeting in early September. We're going to see what comes out of that. Core inflation numbers, they stand at about 4%. The target is 2%. We went over that on Friday's discussion. So 2% is the target. They're at 4%. There's disagreement amongst Fed members whether to move the interest rate up a little bit further. We all established that. I think personally it's a mistake to go any higher than here, and people are going to say, well, you're in real estate, you want to sell real estate. I think here's where the canary in the coal mine scenario comes in. The problem is that we've seen the bank failures, and there is some speculation that some banks right now are holding treasuries that are pretty crappy. I mean, as far as the interest rate bearing. So if there's liquidity problem within the banks, they have to sell off their treasuries. They're about half. Their treasuries are maybe, some of them are like 2.75, and they're holding them as reserves for actually holding dollars in the bank. So if they had to liquidate, they had to sell these at a pretty significant discount because the yields now are, they're into the fives, about 5. And so it's like, where do you go with that? And I think moving forward, we're going to be very, very, very cautious about saying where another 0.25% interest rate hike could lead us. Because if there is one thing that we really have to watch out for, and I do think the Fed is not on top of this the way they should be, if the economy unwinds rather quickly, it's not going to be good, because what will happen is, just like everything else, like we're going to go into a churning like a churn of employees, of the entire business cycle. And I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is if we don't really get, if we get too far ahead, the Fed moves too far ahead, and this process unravels, getting it back into a place where it's not as drastic will be a little too little too late. We talked about the whole knee-jerk thing. It was like, I think there's actually a meme of that somewhere. But they'll knee-jerk. That really, like, that the Fed really takes a time to kind of like let this simmer through a little bit. And let's see where that core inflation number maybe go. Not to say that interest rates are left off the table further, but I'm of the belief that the economy is not doing as well as, I don't think it's doing as well as what's being kind of reported. So I do think there's some pain out there, and I do think that people's buying power is diminished. I think people are pretty angry about it, according to some TikTok people I see out there. There's some funny stuff out there now, I gotta tell you, just about inflation. So the big thing is for you is, let's see what so there's two key numbers. It's the Fed rate decision in September. The prediction is that it's like a 50% that they're gonna hold or move higher, or 25% to move higher, and almost no chance of it dropping. They're saying that it'll be in the first quarter. The first, what we call exactly what that means. Some people don't realize that. We do this on a phone, so it's like, okay, I'll pick it up. I promise. Give me a second. The big thing is like where we go with that rate, and the other key thing is unemployment numbers. We gotta watch these unemployment numbers. An uptick in the unemployment numbers changes the dynamic a lot, and it could change the dynamic with housing, because some people are they kind of maxed out. Any change in employment can create a series of defaults, and this is where the Fed gets this wrong, because so much of the American economy is based on debt. A tip over, it's like losing your footing and trying to get it back. We have a decent enough footing now. If we lose our footing, just like how you're about to trip and roll over on the ground, once you know you're in the tripping phase, and then you know that your feet are coming over your head in the next 2 seconds. And usually it's too late to do anything about. So once you're there, it's like we don't want to get there. And I think that's the kind of thing we want to correlate with, like this tripping up somehow. So with that being said, we're going to watch those two key numbers. There are signs that things are kind of plateaued. The market definitely shows, based on the average list to sell median sold price. The median sold price in Monmouth and Ocean Counties remains a bounce off of interest rates purely. So I think it's important to realize that that's where the bounce is. Low inventory market still continues. I don't see any changes. The key change there will be unemployment, if it in fact hits. We'll see. That's the last of that, and that's pretty much what we have.
Yes.
So we did a nice, our stats was summed up very quickly, very efficiently, hopefully.
I think so.
Did I ramble on too much, folks?
No.
I have someone that says that I ramble a lot. She needs to kind of ramp me down a bit, because I go on a tear.
No, you're fine.
Keri's the best. I always do everything right. At least until she tells her buddies. Anyway, that's our report for today. We did the Staten Island, New Jersey, and we will hit you up. It's already, oh goodness, September. Yes, I promise I'll call you back. Not the 2 missed phone calls wouldn't have indicated that. But anyway. I will. We'll touch base in a few weeks.
Yeah,
and we'll let you know what's going on. All right. Hopefully, you find that interesting. Drop a comment in the comment section. If you have a question about where things are heading and like maybe pricing things, you definitely contact us and we'll try to help you out. All
Send
right?
us a message.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
Call us.
I'll be contacting Kelly, okay? Contact the office.
Yeah.
All right? So anyway, that's our report. We'll see you in a month.
Yes.
You have a great day now.
Bye, guys.